Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment, which is being held pursuant to the Open Public Meeting Law, C-231, Laws of New Jersey, dated 1975. Notice of this meeting was advertised in the local source, as well as the Star Ledger, the two newspapers of record, and notice has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building adjacent to the municipal clerk's office. Roll call.
Mr. Vinavanga? Here. Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Mr. Wiley's absent. Ms. Alexander?
Here.
Ms. Martins?
Here.
Ms. Scott?
Here.
Mr. McNeil?
Here.
Mr. Graves?
Here.
And Mr. Champy?
Here. There being a quorum present, this meeting is now declared open. At this time, I'll ask for a motion and a second for the approval of the minutes from the two meetings of February 22nd and March the 8th, 2023. May I have a motion and a second?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the meeting minutes of February 22nd, 2023, and March 8th, 2023 be approved as written and dispense with their reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Mr. Manguso, are there any communications?
There are no communications, Mr. Chairman.
Hearing none, then our first order of business this evening is calendar number 3413, Syed and Nadra Shafiq, located at 1933 William Street, Block 5409, Lot 22. Maintain the garage interior dimensions, and it will be for the adoption of the resolution. At this time, may I have a motion and a second to adopt the resolution?
Mr. Chairman, I move that this board adopt the resolution as written and is accurately memorializing the previous findings of this board.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Bentavegan?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Alexander?
Yes.
Ms. Martins?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McNeil?
Yes.
And Mr. Champy?
Yes. Our next order of business this evening is calendar number 3414, the Easton Coach Company, located at 601 Lehigh Avenue, Block 605, Lot 15, ADA Paratransit Transportation Services for New Jersey Transit. At this time, I'd like to defer to the applicant's counsel, as well as Rob Pansula, the board's attorney, that I would like to recuse myself from hearing this application.
Yes, for the record, for the public's benefit and counsel, the chairman has an acquaintance within 200 feet of which he's dealt with this property in the past and recused himself. So to be consistent, and I think to have the air of open and notorious actions of this board, we recommended that he recuse himself as he's done in the past. We still have a full complement of members of 7.
Miss Donna Alexander will be handling the meeting going forward. Thank you.
Mr. Pansul is going to come. Oh, sit up there.
I got promoted.
Yes.
Hey, Rob, mic number here. No. Mic number. 5.
Over here, counsel. Floor is yours, counsel.
Good evening, Acting Chairwoman, members of the board. My name is Matthew Gilson from the Wiener Law Group. On behalf of Easton Coach, we are here tonight. NJ Transit seeks its return to operate a facility similar to the one that they used to operate in Union Township for paratransit vehicles. And without the board would so please, I would like to call Mr. Mark Glatz, a representative from Easton Coach, as our first witness.
For the record, council and board members, I did mark the application as you submitted at A1. For the record, I marked A2, the site plan, as it was called, submitted by the architect, Thomas Ryback, consisting of 5 sheets, so collectively the 5 sheets are A2. A3 was the survey from EKA Associates that was submitted, and A4 is the traffic impact study that was proposed. So we pre-marked the A1 through A4 for the record.
Thank you, Counselor.
Up here is the witness. And can I ask you to just raise your right hand and swear or affirm that the testimony you provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
For the record, state and spell your name with your business affiliation.
Mark, M-A-R-K, Glatz, G-L-A-T-Z. I'm a vice president with Easton Coach Company.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glatz. Could you please tell us how long you've worked for Easton Coach Company and in what capacity?
I joined the company in 2005 in a role of development, and my capacity has been helping grow the company for the past nearly 20 years.
And what is your experience in this field?
With this company, we've grown from 2 locations, 3 contracts, and about 200 employees to over 1,200 employees today, 18 locations, and about 30 contracts.
And could you please describe for the board's benefit the type of operations which will be occurring at this site?
This site is to solely serve one contract with New Jersey Transit. The contract is to operate ADA paratransit services in what NJ Transit refers to as Region 5, which is the area of Union, Essex, Morris, Somerset, and some of Hudson counties in New Jersey.
And could you describe the benefits that a facility like this has provided to other communities in which you've operated?
Sure, we operate this for New Jersey Transit in 2 other locations throughout the state. They have the state divided into 5 geographic territories. We run 2 operations in the southern part of the state. We have about 130 vehicles in Cherry Hill, another 35 vehicles in the Pleasantville, Atlantic City area. We've been doing this for NJ Transit since 2013, and this is our 3rd contract in Union County and surrounding counties to operate about 190 vehicles in this area.
And why did you choose this site in particular for this operation?
A few reasons. The ridership is centralized in Union and Essex counties, so we were focused on these areas. And big reason is we've had, and NJ Transit has very good success in Union Township. The operation was based here until 2015 at 1200 Springfield Road, and operated very successfully. 2 of our senior managers with us tonight were at that location and ran the same operation through 2015.
So would you say most of the people you're servicing are in Union and the surrounding area?
Yeah, about 30% of our ridership is in Union, about 50% is in Essex and the dense area just east and north of Union, and the balance is a little bit of Somerset, Morris, and a little bit of Hudson counties. But 80% are within a tight radius of where we are or where we propose to be in Union Township.
And if the board were to look favorably upon this application, can you describe what a typical day at this facility would look like?
Sure. On a typical day, a weekday, we would run between 80 and 100 runs. Single shift, vehicle goes out, vehicle comes back, runs. That would be running roughly 80% wheelchair vans, which is a vehicle like this in this photograph.
Why don't we mark that A5 for the record? It's a photo image of one of the typical, is that fair to say it's typical?
Yes. Mm-hmm. That's a typical wheelchair van. That's 80% of our fleet. And you've probably seen them every day. Our vehicles run nearly 24/7. Under ADA, we're required to operate whenever a fixed route is in operation. ADA service is required under the Americans with Disabilities Act to offer equal transportation to people who can't ride the public bus system. So whenever a big bus is running in Union Township or elsewhere, we're required to offer our service as complimentary to people who can't use the big bus. So the fixed routes are running from 3, 4 in the morning until after midnight, so we're running the same schedule. Most of our vehicles leave earlier in the morning between the hours of 4 and 5 and 7 and 8 are out for the day, and most return by about 6 p.m. We do run service into the evening with a couple of vehicles running past midnight. On Saturdays, we run about 60% of that weekday capacity. Sundays is about a third, so much smaller, but still nearly 24/7. And we'd staff 24/7 just for continuity and site safety and security. We would staff 24/7 at Lehigh Ave.
So, Mr. Glatz, I'm sure as many of the board might, when I hear Easton Coach and NJ Transit, I think buses, big buses. Can you describe what type of vehicles are exclusively used at this facility?
This is the biggest vehicle you'll see at our facility. It's really a Ford 350 chassis. It's a big pickup truck in the front with a wheelchair body on chassis attached to the rear. There's a wheelchair lift, room in there for three wheelchairs or up to 6 to 8 ambulatory passengers. So it's a combination of ambulatory and wheelchair ridership. Not only do we handle physically disabled, but visually impaired, cognitive issues, other people who qualify under ADA qualify for this service. So it's not just people in wheelchairs, but it's a mix of people that qualify under the ADA statutes.
And the rest would be sedans. This would be the
Yeah.
biggest.
The other 20% are smaller sedans for single one-off trips, just to be more efficient and less congested.
And just for clarification purposes, will any passengers ever visit this site to be picked up or dropped off?
Never. The vehicles leave our site empty in the morning, return empty at night. There's no public traffic at all in our locations, no retail, no walk-in. We do have occasional job applicants, we have vendors delivering. Other than that, it's our employees and an almost constant presence from NJ Transit. They have different areas and different representatives on staff most of the time as well.
And will there be any work done on vehicles at this facility?
We will, one of our responsibilities is to maintain the fleet. NJ Transit owns the fleet, they acquire the fleet through capital grants, and then they assign vehicles to the different regions throughout the state. I mentioned before, we have 150 of these vans assigned to this region and about 40 sedans. Our responsibility is not only to operate and drive, but we schedule trips, we dispatch throughout the day, and we insure and we maintain the vehicles. So on the maintenance side, we'd have 6 maintenance bays inside at the facility, clean, environmentally sound, ventilation, exhaust systems, fluid containment, spill capture, all the state-of-the-art requirements that I think you would expect in any maintenance facility. There's no paint booth here, there's no heavy maintenance done. Heavy body work is outsourced. Most of our work is preventative and maintenance, inspections of vehicles once a month, changing of fluids, replacing of tires, and then minor repairs or repairing body panels.
And you would not be fueling vehicles at this facility?
Correct. All these vehicles are gasoline fueled, and they fuel at local retail stations. So there's no fuel tank here. There's no big fueling operation at all.
And as far as any concerns with noise, are there any diesel engines operating at the property?
None at all. These are all gasoline vehicles, and the sedans are a non-plug-in hybrid type vehicle. So it's smaller fleet, cleaner fleet, no diesel.
And does NJ Transit operate similar facilities such as this around the state?
They do. As I mentioned before, there are 5 locations. We now operate 3 of them with this new contract.
And do you have any issues at these facilities that you're aware of?
We go out of our way to try and fit in well, be a good neighbor, and be responsive to the township and serve and support the community.
And did a similar facility like this used to operate in Union itself?
Yes, mentioned before, the Springfield Avenue site just below the Bed Bath Beyond conglomeration was the home of this operation from 2007 through 2015. Worked very well there. A couple of our managers operated it, very efficient, was a good neighbor, didn't really create problems, and supportive, active in the community, and we hope those of you who were here 7, 8, 9 years ago remember that operation is a good business in the township.
And how long is your contract to operate this facility?
This is a 7-year contract from NJ Transit, and typically these renew for additional 7-year terms. We've been operating our other locations for 3 cycles now, 3 different contracts. In our lease here, we've actually negotiated an additional 7-year option. We want to be here for the long term. So we have the opportunity to be here 14 years under these 7-year contracts as drafted.
So then does Easton find itself getting involved in the communities in which it's located?
Yes, we do. Mhm.
And could
We'll
you
be-
describe kind of how you're involved and?
We'll be very active, mostly by invitation to the community. If somebody needs a vehicle for a township parade or an event, we'd be happy to do that if we can help with other transportation needs or other non-transportation needs. Again, we just want to be part of the community, visible, supportive, and we really represent NJ Transit, so we have to match their professional appearance and the appearance of their vehicles, their fleet, and their operations. So our standards, we think, are quite high.
I'd like to switch by ask you some operational questions about the facility. What are the hours of operation for this facility?
Mentioned before, we'll stay open 24/7, but activity will really start 3, 4, 5 in the morning. Most of the vehicles go out between 4 and 5, and by 8 o'clock. We put vehicles out pretty steady throughout the day. It seems to average about 30 vehicles in or out every hour during the day. There are some peaks with employees coming in for the 9 to 5 office shifts. In addition to the drivers, we have about 15 office staff at any point and 5 to 10 maintenance people operating at any peak point in the day. So we do have in-house operations as well as the driver force that comes and takes the vehicles out.
And how many total vehicles will operate out of this facility?
There are 190 vehicles assigned by NJ Transit to this operation. I mentioned before, we're running between 80 and 100 runs a day, so 80 to 100 vehicles a day are operating.
And what would you say are the peak hours for these vehicles entering and leaving the facility?
The traffic study shows that between 7 and 8, and then again at 5 and 6, we're running 45 to 50 vehicles in and out, including employee vehicles. It's roughly half fleet, half employees coming or going, but we're 46 to 48, I believe the counts were in the traffic report, for these peak hours. And that's based on actual data from the current operation that's based in Newark now, but same fleet, same operation, actual NJT data.
And can you describe, you briefly discussed that there was an office space. Can you briefly describe the office space aspect of this facility?
Sure. So I mentioned we have about 15 people in the office at any given time. The majority are dispatchers. We might have 6 or 8 dispatchers during the peak periods of the day, communicating with the vehicles, tracking the schedules, making sure we're on time. We have a scheduling component, which might be 3 or 4 people, an administrative group doing reconciling and administrative tasks, and our managers. And then separately, we have our maintenance staff, which is mechanics of different grades and a utility staff to keep the vehicles clean inside and out.
Now, can you explain when employees come to the facility, are they putting their car in the van which they're taking, or are there separate allotted parking for your employees?
Fortunately for us, our customer, NJ Transit, requires that its fleet have its separate dedicated spaces. So we're not commingling employees parking and fleet parking. In this case, we propose to put all the larger vehicles inside the building or the attached structure, and then we have a separate large parking lot sufficient for employee parking.
Now,
So the
well-
employees would be separate from the fleet vehicles.
Well, I'll also ask this question of our planner. There was a comment made in the engineering review regarding the fact that this facility is significantly overparked, which isn't different than I have most of the time with my applications. But would you say this contributes to the need for your overparking of the facility?
Well, certainly, because the drivers arrive 15, 20 minutes before start of shift, come in, check in, collect their paperwork, and then after their shift, return the vehicle, do their inspection, come back in, close out for the day. So there are periods of time where the driver's vehicle is on, as well as his or her assigned fleet for the day. So
And
really
just-
double vehicles.
Just to finish up a couple of safety concerns, do you conduct background checks for your drivers?
Yes. Per New Jersey Transit policy, very thorough background checks, national and state criminal checks, MVRs, driving records, clean records for 3 years. There's DOT level physicals required of all of our drivers. We have a DOT level drug and alcohol program, including pre-employment and random testing, as well as ongoing testing. And twice a year, we're checking backgrounds again and making sure our drivers still have clean records that meet our customers' requirements.
And as you said, the site is not really open to the public per se. Can you describe the security measures which are on site?
Sure. The way the design team has put this together, the site would be fenced, gated, secured by 60-some security cameras, all monitored both remotely and then 24/7 within their dispatch operation. The design has lighting, both motion activated and permanent lighting, secure fencing throughout, a good secure facility. We do have the rail line behind us too. The active rail line is our entire back parcel, so good secure access there, neighbors on either side, and then Lehigh Avenue in the front.
And should any issues arise, would you be willing to work with the township to address those issues?
Of course. Mhm.
At this time, Madam Chairwoman, I submit Mr. Glatz for questions of the board and its professionals.
Okay, at this time, are there any board members that would like to question the testimony of Mr. Goetz that has provided? Any board members like to? Seeing none.
You have any?
Yeah, I do. Sorry,
Oh,
Mr.
okay.
Chairman. Just a quick question. You had mentioned that you would have some vendors delivering. What type
Yes.
of deliveries would you guys be receiving there?
Our vendors are primarily dropping off uniforms about once a week, and then parts and fluid suppliers for the maintenance operations. And then the basic staples office supply once every couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Just that we mentioned the Collier's report, that's the February 24th, 2023 correspondence from the township engineers. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I am, sir.
And I know your professionals might address it, but there's nothing you saw in there as the representative that troubles you to accommodate the details that are in that letter? There's
No,
nothing
and I
there.
understand our group is already affirmatively responding to all of that.
Figured
but
as much, and you
Nothing in
covered-
there was
The
concerning
one
us.
area that I just want to go over with you is you've mentioned the use of the site, and that we needed that testimony. That's one of the things that Collier's suggested. I just want to make sure you as the tenant are using the whole site. There's no other use expected?
No.
Because the overparking is what concerns me. This property has a history, which doesn't concern you, but
But
its
we're aware of it,
predecessor
yes.
owner. I want to make sure that it's clear that we're not in a situation where there's going to be tractor trailers used to park in some of these open spaces, other users. It's you exclusively, you're using the site for this purpose, correct?
That's our commitment, and more importantly, NJ Transit requires that nothing else be on the site, so.
Perfect.
And
we'll
we're
be-
obviously open to any condition in the resolution which would address this.
Well, I'll just note that for the record, because that's important. It's a use situation, but that really answers a lot of the questions I had legally, I think, that would, for my role as the board attorney, to make sure the town's protected in that regard as the board deliberates and considers this. Is this comparable to the size of the space you had on Springfield Ave?
This is smaller in the building. That was more maintenance inside, and then that had a much larger outdoor parking area.
Okay.
So the fleet were parked outside there. Overall, I think they were both in the 7 to 8 acre range.
Okay, so the operation, as it were, was similarly sized?
Correct. Similar number of fleet and similar number of employees.
Thank you.
And I do have one small question. You said that you had 5 locations,
Yes.
and 3 of them you own, Easton owns. Could you tell me where they are, please?
Ours are in Cherry Hill.
Cherry Hill.
We have about 130 vehicles operating that suburban Philadelphia side of southern New Jersey. In Pleasantville, just outside Atlantic City,
Okay,
we have about 35 vehicles serving Atlantic and Cape May counties.
okay, all right, thank you. Any other board members have a question? Are there anyone from the public that would like to question the testimony of this witness, that this witness has provided? Is there anyone? Anyone from the public? Okay, seeing none. Your next witness.
Thank you. At this time, Madam Chairwoman, if it please the board, I would like to call our architect, Tom Ryback.
Yeah, we'll keep that for the record. Good evening, Mr. Ryback. I'm Rob Pansula, the board attorney. Can I ask you to raise your right hand and swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
For the record, if you could state and spell your name with your business affiliation.
My name's Tom Ryback, R-Y-B-A-K.
I run an architectural firm in Rutherford, New Jersey. I'm licensed in New Jersey and approximately 20 other states across U.S.
We'll accept your credentials.
Good evening, Mr. Ryback. Are you familiar with the project before us tonight?
Yes.
And what was your role in preparing for tonight's meeting?
Basically, it starts with the analysis of different structures of different sites where the client wants to be, and then we do our recommendation and what work needs to be done to meet New Jersey Transit specs.
And if you could, and I'll kind of just let you run with it from here, if you could please give the board the benefit of the site plan overview and what exactly we're looking to do at the site.
Basically, before we developed the site plan, we had a working session with the town engineer, and we basically talked to them about what their requirements would be for this site, and we wanted to reuse some of most of the existing conditions that were there, and then do alterations to the inside of the building, and then clean up the outside and create a more secure environment for the tenant.
If you could just kind of briefly explain the layout of the site, how many parking spaces there are. Well, let's start with the parking. If you could go over the layout of the parking and how this site is set up.
Well, how about if I just go over the circulation of it, sure, and then we'll get into the parking. So basically, the access to the site is a driveway on this side. There's a front entryway in the middle of the building, and then there's another driveway over here which has the outside parking. So the way we work the design on it is that all the vehicles that will be used to service the local residents will be coming in and out of this driveway, coming into the building, circling around, and then coming out whenever the service goes. And I'll show you the inside layout in a minute. The outside entrance in here will be the employee entrance. They park their vehicle and then they walk into the side entrance. The main entrance that's in the front of the building basically will be closed off. Will be just for emergency use at most. And so there is no street parking, there's no street traffic. Everything will be contained inside the site itself. This is the operation of the inside. You see the parking of all the vans for overnight. The service happens in here. Wash bays will be on this side. There's some additional storage. This is the office operation with the training facilities, a depot area for the drivers, and the main entrance, the employee entrance, will be on the side, and visitors will come in through here. There's also a recruiting station and human resources in this end. And this is all administration, and the dispatch is in that area.
If we could.
The only other thing that I should mention is that on the other side, this is the annex building, right through here. And some of the vehicles will be parked in this annex area. Granted, it's larger than needed, but basically the sedans and some of the vans will be parked there.
And there was a comment related to the facade of the building. I know that you brought some examples to show the board tonight.
Yes, so basically, as part of the working session, the town did not like the look of this building, so that's going to get refurbished. We're going to have a new elevation on the outside. I have a sample of the brick that's from the existing building. So this is the existing brick, and we are actually, we were lucky enough to find something that matches it exactly. So that wall will look like the rest of the building that's on the site. And this is the detail for that wall. We also are creating these pillars for the fencing area. So when you go back to the site plan, basically what you're going to have is the fenced area. You're going to have a gate area in here, and then you have another gate area in here, and then you have the pillars going all the way around and returning here with, wrought iron sort of finishes, and those pillars basically are the same brick that's on the building.
Could you describe some of the other ways in which the applicant is improving the visual aspect of the site?
All right, so if you look at the perspectives, basically this is the front of the building, this is the front entryway that was there. All the brick is going to be restored, new coping installed, power washed and cleaned, and if we need to do some brick facing, that'll take care of it also.
Why don't we note that as A6 for the record, because that's not part of your original submission, right?
I think you have those.
We'll mark them.
Yeah, that's
Was it
fine.
part of the 5-page site plan? I don't remember seeing it.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. This is the another view of the building. This is where the wall will go, and this is the gate entryway on the side. This is the proposed wall that's at the annex right now. We also have cutouts for, to mimic the window detail that's on the existing building. And this is another view of the building itself with new landscaping up front.
And I'd like to go back to the Collier's letter and kind of just run through some of the comments that were made, which I believe we will have no problem addressing any of them. Comment 3.2, the pathways must be compliant for ADA guidelines. Will the applicant comply with this requirement?
Actually, what we have done is we developed a site plan that we will submit this week to the engineer, and we are going to comply with all the comments that they have.
And as far as the over parking, is that it consistent with your understanding that and the layout that this will be used for both the transit vehicles and for the personal vehicles of employees coming to the site?
Well, one of the requirements for New Jersey Transit is all the service vehicles that are being distributed through the counties are all supposed to be inside. There's no outside parking on the site. The only outside parking that you have is for visitors and also employees. But there is an overlap, like Mr. Gatz said, between shifts when drivers come in, they park 15, 20 minutes, then the volume on the parking goes down. So there is a bit of an overlap in certain times of the day.
And you will submit a lighting plan?
The lighting plan is already developed, and we're going to be submitting it this week, yes.
And can you confirm the adequacy of the present utility connections for sewer, water, electric, gas, telephone, cable?
Our initial investigation shows that we have enough from the existing. We have enough power, we have enough water for the sprinkler system. We're in the process of testing the sprinkler system to meet all requirements, fire alarm, any generator usage, stuff like that.
And you obviously comply with any fire requirements of the township?
That's correct.
Thank you. Madam Chairwoman, I submit Mr. Ryback for questions of the board and the public.
Are there any board members?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Are there any board members that would like to question Mr. Ryback?
I do have a question. You mentioned the site plan in your testimony, but I didn't see any contours or anything indicating how water would be flowing off of the site. Is that part of your role?
Well, basically, what we were planning to do is, we looked at the survey, and we submitted the survey for review, and we're basically using the existing facilities that are on site, the drainage and everything else.
But I do believe that one of the requirements of the Collier letter was that on the site plan, it should be shown through contours how the water would flow off of.
I believe that's in the process of being done, if it's not done yet. I'll follow up on that for you.
I'll just note that for the record, both the township's engineer as well as fire, because there is a whole page of fire requirements, once again, tied into some of the past problems, especially with the sprinkler system and some of the other details of that site. I'm familiar with it because it was before this board years ago. So we did have a code enforcement situation of some magnitude. So I'll note that for the record and the cooperative effort. It seems like there's really no issues there that we cannot expect will be fulfilled.
Yeah, and we'll obviously, of course, agree as a condition of approval to comply.
But I'll note the cooperative effort as it pertains to drainage. Mr. McNeil makes a good point. And lighting, because that is also something that the township wants to make sure. Because there are, I know the railroad's in the back, but this is an active neighborhood in terms of reactions to what happens at this site, and they're a little gun shy. Even if they're not here tonight, I mean, we know from comments that they want to make sure that this is going to flow neatly.
Understood.
The lighting plan was developed also, and will be submitted to the engineer for its review, but there is no overflow of lighting past the property lines.
Okay. Mr. Big, you have a question? Okay. Any other board members? Are there anyone from the public that would like to question Mr. Rayback? Seeing none. Your next witness.
Thank you very much.
I marked there were 4 pages total, so the whole collective exhibit will be A6, the 4.
I did have one other question. I'm sorry, before you go. You had mentioned that you will be doing, or there's a wash area in the warehouse. How will that wash water be collected and then disposed of?
Takes a little coordination to find a microphone and explain everything. For that, I apologize.
You need an aide de camp, man.
I could never juggle, so. So anyway, the wash area is right in here. There's a drainage scenario, and that will be properly dealt with, or whatever we need to do.
I mean, will it go into the regular stormwater system, or will it be collected?
Will be collected.
I will note, too, for the record, the oil handling for the maintenance of the vehicles, et cetera. I'm sure there's pretty heavy standards and regulations that would be imposed, if not specified in the Collier's letter, that obviously those would be accommodated.
Yes, and obviously we'll agree to the stipulation that we will not be fueling on the property.
Noted for the record.
Mr. President.
One thing I will underline is that New Jersey Transit is a stickler on safety and operation. So basically, not only we are going to take care of the exhausts from the vehicles that are in the facility itself while they're being worked on, we will also take care of the air changes in the warehouse area when they pull in and pull out. The oil separation and management system is also being spec'd to take care of all those concerns.
Which I believe is one of the fire comments in terms of the airflow, and
Right.
especially with that number of vehicles contained in an inside structure. Candidly, I've never seen an application of this magnitude with indoor parking. It was unique for me, so it's interesting.
But it also proves there's no other tenants.
Which is good, yeah, that's important.
I have a question, Mrs. Chairwoman. Will somebody be coming in and taking the waste oil away, or?
Yes.
Okay, so you'll have a company?
Yes.
Come and do that, okay.
Your next witness.
That's it. Thank you again. Have a good evening.
Madam Chairwoman, at this time, I'd like to call our traffic expert, Lee Klein.
For the record, if you could raise your right hand and swear or affirm that the testimony you provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth.
I do.
For state and spell your name with your business affiliation.
Lee, middle initial D as in Daniel, Klein, K-L-E-I-N, principal of Klein Traffic Consulting, West Orange, New Jersey. I'm a professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. My license is current and in good standing. I'm also a nationally certified professional traffic operations engineer, and my certification is also current. And I actually was the board traffic engineer about 15 years ago.
We'll accept your credentials.
Thank you.
Mr. Klein, did you review the traffic impact and parking study report dated February 6, 2003, prepared by Joseph Steiger?
Yes, I did. In that report, Mr. Steiger mentions that the data that he used to develop the trip generation, and I think Mr. Glatz mentioned it as well, we have actual counts from the same type of a facility in Newark, so we're able to use those numbers every hour, vehicles in, vehicles out, whether they're vans, sedans, employees, whatever it is, deliveries. We know all those numbers hour by hour over a 24-hour period, so we use those as our actual traffic numbers that are going to be coming in and out of the facility. So in the report, we've got, and I think Mr. Glatz mentioned it, between 8 and 9 in the morning, 27 vehicles will enter and 21 vehicles will exit for a total of 48 vehicles. And the 5 to 6 p.m. peak hour, 16 vehicles will enter and 30 vehicles will exit for a total of 46 trips in and out in that 1 hour. I want to mention also that as previous use of this site was a light industrial use, that would generate more like in the low 70 number of trips per hour. So this is about 50% less traffic, or the old use was 50% more than this proposed use.
Could you describe the peak hours? And is there mass transit located near this site?
There is. There's the 113 bus. It's about a third of a mile, 7-minute walk from the facility.
And how much of the employment force do you estimate will be using mass transit?
According to Mr. Glatz, he thinks that approximately 20% of his employees will either carpool or use mass transit.
And this is the same operation that's currently operating at 896 Frelinghuysen Avenue in Newark?
That's correct.
And in Table 2 of the report, this is the most accurate and appropriate means to make the determination, in your opinion?
That's correct. Like I said before, we have hour-by-hour volume entering and exiting by type of vehicle, whether it's part of the fleet or an employee or a staff going on a break, and we know those numbers in and out, and we can translate those numbers to this site, and then we can look at the operation of that driveway. In the traffic report, we were also able to obtain some traffic volumes along Lehigh Avenue and do a quick analysis of the driveway, and we're looking at levels of service A or B with very low average delays of vehicles exiting or entering, less than 10 seconds of delay to exit the site.
And you discussed how this use, even though obviously we're here before the zoning board, is not a permitted use in the zone, would be less in traffic intense than the proposed uses. Can you also describe how it would compare to the types of vehicles that would be used typically in these other uses?
Certainly. As you heard from Mr. Glatz, it's all gasoline vehicles. The vans are basically Ford 350 chassis, so they're not extremely large buses or large diesel trucks that will be coming in and out. We're looking at gasoline-powered vehicles, sedans, vans, employees' vehicles as well. We're not looking at big tractor-trailers or box trucks that are diesel as well.
And you could describe the typical flow of traffic from this site?
We looked at the distribution based on Mr. Glatz's information. About 70% of the traffic will be going to and from the north towards Morris Avenue, and about 30% of the traffic will be going south towards Galloping Hill Road.
And though Mr. Ryback did touch on it, can you discuss how the vehicles will be entering and exiting the site?
Sure. So I believe that we're going to have, in between the, I think they call it the shed building and the main building, there's going to be the ability for those sedans that are in there and the other vans to come out that way and enter that way to go back in the evening. And then the employee parking lot is to the east, and the employees will enter that driveway, circulate to their parking space, walk over to the side door, but that'll be the main entrance to enter the building.
And is the applicant proposing to add or remove any parking from the current site?
No, they're looking to keep the same footprint of pavement and parking layout. They're enhancing some of the landscaping slightly, but for the most part, keeping the same footprint of the parking lot.
And what is your expert opinion as to whether this will have any negative impact on the neighborhood as far as traffic?
Based on the peak hour numbers that we have from the other facility in Newark, translating them here, looking at some research traffic numbers on Lehigh Avenue, levels of service, as I said before, level of service A or B with 10, 11 seconds of delay for the vehicles getting out and very little delay for vehicles trying to make a left turn into the site, less than a second of delay. So in my opinion, based on the number of trips, based on this level of service analysis, the development of this site for this use would not have a negative impact on traffic in the surrounding area.
Thank you. Madam Chairwoman, I have no further questions for Mr. Klein and submit him to questions of the board and the public.
Are there any board members that would like to question Mr. Klein on this matter?
I have one more question. The shed, you mentioned the shed. Is the shed coming down, or are we fixing it up? Okay.
Just, I noticed and it's been said a couple times, there's no electric charging stations required for the vehicles currently. You're looking 7 years, maybe 14. I'm reading and hearing where the progression is. Just, I'll note for the record, to the extent there's a change in the future about what you're going to look to do beyond gas-fueled vehicles, that you satisfy whatever safety standards. It may, I guess, technically require a follow-up to this board, but at a minimum, a follow-up with engineering and fire to make sure we're dealing with fire suppression as it relates to charging and those modes of fueling as opposed to gas power.
Yes, obviously, we agree to that.
But now there's none, right? There's no electrical vehicle stations.
I
There's no
agree,
need.
yes, and I believe my client would obviously agree that it's going in that direction, but
Right.
at this time, we don't have any of those vehicles, so.
Just note that, I'll note that for the record going forward, because, you know, if I'm not here, you're not here, but it's 7 years removed, code or someone has to have the ability to take control of how that's implemented,
Of course,
especially the fire suppression aspect, which I understand is quite tricky.
yes.
Any other board members? Is there anyone from the public that would like to question Mr. Klein for the information he has provided us? Hearing none, you can move on with your next witness.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. At this time, I'd like to call my final witness, our planner, Sean Moronsky.
Can I ask the witness to swear or
Yes.
affirm that the testimony you provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
For the record, if you could state and spell your name with your business affiliation.
It's Sean, S-E-A-N, Moronsky, M-O-R-O-N-S-K-I. I'm with Langen Engineering and Environmental Services, 300 Kimball Drive, Parsippany, New Jersey.
Thank you.
And could you please give the board the benefit of your experience as a professional planner?
Yes, a master's in urban planning from New York University. A New Jersey licensed professional planner since the year 2000. My license is current. Member of the American Institute of Certified Planners since 1999. I've been qualified before several boards throughout the state. This is my first time appearing before this town zoning board of adjustment, but I have appeared before your planning board.
Thank you. We'll accept his credentials.
Thank you.
Mr. Moronsky, could you please begin by providing an overview of the existing conditions of the site at 601 Lehigh Avenue?
Yes, and just for background, in order to prepare my testimony, obviously reviewed the application and site plans, visited the site and the surrounding area, reviewed the report of your board professional, also reviewed the 2021 master plan update, and your most recently updated zoning ordinance. This is a new exhibit. This was not part of the package, so I'll label it.
A7 for the record. Aerial, it looks like an aerial photo.
And A7 is an aerial, specifically it's labeled aerial photograph map. The way it's aligned, to the left is north, south is to the right, east is on top and west is on the bottom. At the center, of the aerial outlined in red is the subject property, 601 Lehigh Avenue, which is on the south side of the street. It's approximately 7.6 acres, has a generally rectangular shape. It has the existing light industrial buildings with the parking lot, as was previously noted in testimony. Lehigh Avenue does form the zoning boundary, as to the north you have the residential RA zone, but on the south side of Lehigh you have the commercial industrial CI zone. And to the east and west you have a series of light industrial, light manufacturing, and warehouse uses on that side of the street. And had been previously noted, we have the railroad right-of-way to the south or the rear of the property. So the commercial industrial zone, the CI zone, has a range of permitted uses: manufacturing, research laboratories, warehouse and distribution centers, offices, car services, indoor and outdoor recreation facilities, instructional uses, places of assembly, fitness centers, public parking garages, outdoor storage. And there are some others, but just to give you an idea of the range of uses that are permitted and the potential intensity of uses that could be permitted at this location. And as has been noted, we are requesting a D1 use variance. The proposed ADA paratransit facility is not a permitted use in the CI zone. And I do believe that the proposed use is particularly suited for this location. Paratransit service is in demand, especially as New Jersey population ages throughout the state, including in suburban areas and towns such as Union. We are located in the commercial industrial district with convenient access to Route 82 and the surrounding roads to serve paratransit area needs. And the use is substantially like many permitted uses, or even less intense than, say, distribution centers or car services. And as was noted by Mr. Ryback, the proposed use can be integrated into the site. You're not expanding the existing footprint. You're not doing any substantial physical improvements to the site. We require no bulk variances. This use does further several purposes of zoning. Purpose A, encouraging action to guide and promote use and development of land in a manner that promotes public health, safety, and general welfare. The paratransit facility would improve options for users in the area and beyond. Purpose H would be encourage location design of transportation routes, promotes the free flow of traffic while discouraging location where there might be potential for congestion. The location of the facility would note for effective circulation on the site and off the site as well, as Mr. Klein had indicated in his testimony, particularly with regards to levels of service, as well as an effective use of the roadway network to serve those individuals who require paratransit service. And Purpose I, promoting a desirable visual environment, creative design techniques. The proposed improvements, as Mr. Ryback mentioned, will improve the site, will enhance the building, bringing a tired building to an improvement in the surrounding area, improving its aesthetic features, and adding landscaping and not having light spillage beyond the property line. For the use variance, we have to address the negative criteria, essentially the benefits, and it's not just a benefit that accrues to the applicant, but that it's a public benefit, outweigh the potential detriments that may be incurred by permitting a use that is not specifically permitted in the zone. There are two criteria we have to address. There's no substantial detriment to the public good. The paratransit facility use is a lower intensity than many of the permitted uses, such as manufacturing, warehousing, and as noted with the traffic being less intense than other permitted uses. Some of the light industrial uses, the traffic counts indicate it could be up to 50% greater traffic. The deliveries, as was noted, are limited to office supplies, uniforms, basics to help run the business. The parking setup with the vehicles stored inside, and then the parking area as is, it helps to facilitate efficient operations between shifts in particular. As the site is designed, the paratransit use is adequately parked, and the auto-related facilities are contained in the facility. There's no substantial detriment to the zoning ordinance or zone plan. I note your concern about additional tenants based on the site history. If there are any changes to this floor plan, we would be changing the use as it was approved here. We would have to come back to this board because it would be a D variance. Your 2021 master plan land use element, the CI district includes uses not normally accessed by the general public. As was noticed, this is not if you're coming here, it's because you work here or you have to make a delivery. This does not affect it by pass-by traffic or anything of that nature. And this use is included in the category I noted. Your 2021 master plan, the transportation element, talked about paratransit services. It noted that the county provides non-emergency paratransit services, but that they're limited in destinations in the county. They're acknowledging the demand for the service, which, as my client and New Jersey Transit acknowledges, that there is a demand for the service in this area. We satisfy several goals of the master plan land use. Goal 2 is to support desirable non-residential development. The proposed paratransit facility, in terms of its intensity, is in an appropriate location where it is, especially given the uses that exist and the uses that are permitted in the zone. Goal 6, encourage sustainability and resilience as part of development. The proposed facility involves the adaptive reuse of an existing building and a parking lot. And I believe it is done in a most efficient manner to minimize, in terms of having to find, if you could, vacant land to build such a facility. There are also circulation goals in the master plan that we address. Goal 5, improving safety, access, and mobility for all users. Paratransit services expand access and mobility to users with disabilities and others who need such services. We're contracted with New Jersey Transit and are going to have to comply with their guidelines and regulations. And goal number 6, ensuring circulation remains responsive to emerging technologies and trends. Paratransit is useful to a wide array of customers. As New Jersey trends older, paratransit will only become more important. And since this is a D1 use variance, we have to reconcile that the proposed use, even though it's not included in the ordinance, how we make that case. Well, your CI zone permits a range of uses, including vehicle and parking-oriented uses. This use is very specialized, and I believe that it fits into the range of uses that are permitted in the CI zone. So for the reasons I've outlined, I respectfully request approval of the D1 use variance. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I submit Ms. Morowski to the board for questions.
Okay, are there any board members that would like to question this witness on the testimony that he provided to us?
Just clarifying, you said the parking garage is actually permitted, right? A public parking
Correct.
garage. So
Public parking garage is
For the
permitted.
board's benefit, that's, an important legal variable. I think you should deliberate, in my mind, with the comment I made about this indoor parking unique situation. So, two things. There are no bulk variances, I agree, and
Yeah.
if there were, they're subsumed in the D1, but there are some pre-existing non-conforming bulk. None of that is changing, correct?
Correct.
What exists?
The existing non-conforming conditions are remaining as is.
They're being improved
Yes.
facially and aesthetically, but no changes?
There is we're not making them worse.
And secondly, there were some waivers particular to the parking setup and arrangement, similarly consistent with what exists?
Yes.
No changes in that
No
regard?
changes proposed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other board members? Now, is there anyone from the public that would like to question this witness on the testimony he has provided? Hearing none. Are there any board members who would like to comment on this application?
Thank you.
A comment?
You have no further witnesses, right?
No further witnesses.
Just, John, I think the public is all here as part of your entourage.
It's our-
but Just for the record, make the comment if any public member has to comment generally.
Oh,
They can do that now before council is closed.
right. So is there anyone in the public that would just like to make a general comment? You can come and do that now if you have. Okay.
You want to sum up, council, or you want to have the
Yes,
board?
just very briefly. As stated, we're here for a D variance, and while there's not a permitted use in the zone, as I believe the testimony shows tonight, this is less intense than many of the uses that could be there. While many of the uses may be open to the public, this use is not open to the public. It provides a community service. It takes a property which, from what I'm hearing tonight, has been a problem and makes it into something that is not only better, not only a single tenant, but for better or worse, regulated by NJ Transit. So there will be some oversight of the project. So I respectfully request that based upon the testimony tonight, that the board vote to grant the D1 use variance for the applicant. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Council. I believe at this time we can conference this application at this time, and I'll start with Mr. Graves.
I heard the comment, good neighbor. I do believe you will be a good neighbor. Therefore, I'll be voting yes.
Ms. Scott?
Good evening, everyone. I thought the professionals did a really good job with outlining the project, and the fact that there's so many vehicles, I would think that it's definitely a need for the, I would also agree that you would be a good neighbor. However, I didn't hear anything about, I know it's a 24-hour operation, and you talked about the aesthetics, but I didn't hear anything about security. I did hear something about lighting, but will there be any cameras just to kind of make sure that the people that don't supposed to come on the property don't come on the property? So is that part of the plan?
Yeah,
Yes, I
there was a
believe
quick
Mr.
mention of it, I think. I
Glatz's
noted it,
testimony.
the transit mandates it, so it went in
Okay.
quick, but there is,
Yes.
and it's both in terms of security with cameras and et cetera.
Yes, NJ Transit wouldn't allow us to operate the facility without.
But there were
a certain
cameras
number of
as well,
cameras.
right? Video surveillance and
Mr.
and
Glatz, can you confirm?
structural,
Yes, there are about 60 cameras planned.
Oh, okay.
great.
I did not hear that. But okay, thank you, and I will also be voting yes.
Okay, Ms. Martin?
Thank you. After being very familiar with the current site that's there, I think this is a very good use for the current site. I don't see any negative impacts. It's a great addition to the community, and the proposed improvements will definitely enhance the building, so I will be voting yes.
Mr. McNeil?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I first would like to applaud the applicant and by extension, New Jersey Transit for providing this service. It is well needed, and as was mentioned, you know, our population is aging and can't get around as we used to. So I see no negative impacts on approving this application, and I plan on voting yes.
Mr. Johnson?
I also commend the expert witnesses, and I also, I do remember your previous operation in Union, and I do know that it was a very efficient, clean, and needed operation. So I also will be voting yes.
And Mr. Bentaveg?
Thank you, Madam Chair. By the way, you look good. Thank you. I think this is a very good application. I thought Mr. Glatz's testimony was very detailed and accurate about the day-to-day operation. I see no negative impact to the neighborhood or the surrounding area, and I'm also going to vote yes to that.
As for myself, I agree with my colleagues, and I feel that the witnesses have defended the application very, very well. I see no detriment to the community. I see nothing but positiveness. I will be voting yes along with my colleagues in support of this application. I believe at this time, if I could have a motion and a second to approve or deny this application.
Madam Chairman, I move that the board grant the variance applicable to this application, and that council is directed to prepare a resolution consistent with the board's decision.
Second.
Roll call, Mr. Manguso.
Mr. Bentavegina.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Ms. Martins.
Yes.
Ms. Scott.
Yes.
Mr. McNeil.
Yes.
Mr. Graves.
Yes.
Ms. Alexander.
Yes.
Thank you, and we look forward to working with you.
The first meeting in April, you want me to do that, or?
April 5th?
April 5th.
You want me to do it down on that, or do you want to?
April,
Is it 12th?
there's a 12th, we have a case.
Do you have anything else on the 5th or no?
No.
You want to just do the 12th? It's up to you.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, either or. We could do,
5th?
Do the 5th.
April 5th? We'll have the resolution on our agenda to pass.
Thank you.
I'll send you a copy ahead.
Madam Chairman, there being no further business coming before the board this evening, I move that we adjourn.
All in favor?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.